Welcome back to Whiskers and Wisdom, the podcast where we celebrate the lovable chaos of the animals who share our lives, and occasionally the ones who simply show up and decide they live with us now. Today's episode is a special one because we're diving into the origin story of a cat who did exactly that. A cat who arrived uninvited, unwell, and absolutely determined to change the trajectory of an entire household. So settle in, grab your beverage of choice, and prepare yourself for a tale of grit, destiny, and one very opinionated kitten who refused to give up. You may also want some tissues. Before our hearts weep and rejoice, we have to appease the disclaimer gods. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. I'm not giving veterinary advice, diagnosing your pet, or telling you how to treat anything. I'm just here to share stories, sprinkle in some science, and celebrate the chaos and wonder of the animals we love. If your pet needs medical care, please talk to your veterinarian, preferably one who enjoys your pet's particular brand of nonsense. Let me tell you a story. A tale of destiny, resilience, and one very small creature who arrived on a summer evening looking like he had fought the entire world and lost, but who would one day rise to rule a kingdom he never asked for. This is the legend of Yoda the cat. He wasn't always the massive, tree climbing, squirrel obliterating, 16-pound force of nature that he is today. No, once upon a time, Yoda was, well, 1.6 pounds total. That's not a cat. That's a cold, wet, tiny croissant with opinions. A soggy pastry, but with a pulse. He appeared on my mom's back doorstep on a random Tuesday evening. The kind of evening where nothing interesting is supposed to happen. But fate had other plans. There he was, a tiny brown tabby kitten, eyes glued shut with yellow gunk, nose bubbling like a cauldron, shaking so hard he looked like a leaf in a storm. He was heartbreak in kitten form. And then came Natu, my mom's Maltese, the noble sentinel of the household. He barked, he bounced, he circled, sounding the alarm with all the urgency of a knight discovering a fallen traveler at the gates. And Yoda didn't move. He didn't flinch. He didn't run. He stayed perfectly still. Not out of bravery, but because he had nothing left to give. His tiny body shook, his nose bubbled, and the world was dark behind his glued shut kitten eyes. It was as if he had placed the last of his hope on that doorstep, and he was waiting to see if anyone would answer. It was like he knew this was his last chance, his final roll of the dice, his whispered, exhausted, I choose you moment. So my mom scooped him up, because of course she did, and she brought him inside. The plan, as it always is in these situations, was temporary. Give him warmth, give him food, give him care, and then find a shelter that could take him. Except every shelter said no. No room, no space, no capacity for one more sad, sickly kitten. So we did what any soft hearted, animal loving family would do. We took him to the vet, we got him the care he needed, and syringe fed him because he was too weak to eat on his own. Every tiny swallow felt like a small victory, like he was choosing to keep trying. And slowly, so slowly, he came back to life. His eyes opened, his nose cleared, his voice returned. And with it came, well, attitude. Before we knew it, he was sprinting around the house like he had been resurrected by ancient forces and given a second chance specifically to cause problems. One minute, he was a fragile, trembling scrap of fur clinging to life. And then the next, he was a furry missile with zero regard for physics, property damage, or the emotional stability of the humans around him. He didn't walk, he didn't trot, he launched. Off furniture, off walls, off Natu. He ricocheted through the house like a caffeinated pinball with a personal vendetta against stillness. He discovered vertical surfaces. He discovered horizontal surfaces. He discovered that all surfaces, actually, were launch pads if you believed in yourself. And poor Natu, sweet, gentle, diplomatic Natu, suddenly found himself drafted into the service of the world's smallest, angriest little general. Yoda would march up to him, tail straight up like a battle flag, pupils dilated to the size of dinner plates, and deliver orders in the form of tiny, authoritative chirps. And Natu obeyed immediately, without hesitation, as if Yoda had been promoted to commander of the household by the divine decree. Because even then, at 2 pounds, and fueled entirely by antibiotics and spite, Yoda had presence. The kind of presence that says, I have returned from the brink. I have seen the void. And now I will climb the curtains. At some point, everyone quietly admitted that what we all knew from day one. This was his home now. He had chosen it. The cat distribution system succeeded in their job yet again, and we were merely living in it. And then he grew and grew and grew. At one point, we were genuinely worried if he was absorbing atmospheric mass. Yoda didn't just become a cat, he became a unit, a presence, a mass. 16 pounds of pure muscle, fluff, and unearned confidence. He had his boy kitty rite of passage. Yes, he lost his luggage at the airport, got neutered. But that didn't slow him down for a second. If anything, it unlocked something. He came home from that appointment moving like a creature who had just been patched with aftermarket parts. He wasn't just faster, he was unreasonably faster, like someone had removed the governor in a tiny biological go kart. He became sleek in the way a bowling ball is sleek, not built for speed per se, but absolutely committed to achieving it anyway. A 16-pound kitty projectile with the aerodynamics of a brick and the confidence of a missile that has never once questioned its mission. Streamlined for chaos, optimized for mayhem, shaped by destiny and poor impulse control. He didn't run, he hurdled. He didn't jump, he launched. He didn't walk into rooms. He entered like a furry meteor with a personal vendetta against stillness. And the worst part? He knew it. He felt the speed. He embraced the speed. He weaponized the speed. This was not a cat. This was a 16-pound chaos torpedo with whiskers. Today, Yoda is, well, enormous, I think is the right word for it. But don't let the chunk fool you. This cat is an absolute athlete, a menace, A rooftop scaling, tree climbing, yard sprinting, bird catching, squirrel evicting, baby possum relocating machine. He lives like a feral Olympian with a strict training regimen and a personal vendetta against gravity. He comes inside for breakfast and dinner because even warriors need scheduled meals, but the rest of the time, he patrols his kingdom and snacks on the bodies of his fallen enemies. And I mean that very literally. He hunts, he conquers, he snacks, and then he brings the remains or the um, lower portion of the remains to his humans like he's paying taxes to the crown. And yes, he shares his kingdom with my cat, Kenzie. Though shares might be a generous term. Their relationship is a story for another day. But let's just say two rulers, one realm, endless drama. Despite his power, Yoda is shy, not with his humans, but with strangers. If he hears footsteps that don't belong to his humans, he vanishes. Gone. Poof. Faster than you can say, "Hi, Yoda." And honestly, that's what keeps him safe. A daring knight must know when to fight and when to disappear into the shadows like a whiskered ninja. But here's the thing about Yoda, the part that gets me every single time. He started as a trembling, sickly scrap of fur on a doorstep, a creature who had every reason to give up. And instead, he chose to live. He chose to trust. He chose to walk into a home he didn't even know, with people he'd never met, and because something in him believed there was still a chance. And now, he's an absolute legend, a knight of the backdoor realm, protector of the yard, terror of the squirrels, best friend to Natu, the beloved son of my mom, and my dad's spicy TV watching potato, a title he wears with pride, and a reminder that sometimes the smallest, saddest beginnings lead to the most extraordinary lives. Yoda didn't just survive, he rose. He claimed his place. He built a kingdom out of a backyard and a life out of a moment of courage. And honestly, I think that makes him a hero. And that, my friends, is the saga of Yoda, a kitten who arrived half dead and then immediately chose to become a resurrected furry torpedo. Thanks for listening. Thanks for feeling all of the feelings with me. And remember, in this house, we respect tiny warlords with emotional chaos that they bring with them. See you next time on Whiskers and Wisdom.